It started when I received a notice from the HOA that my monthly fees were being raised due to too many cars on my property. At first, I thought it was a minor annoyance, the usual overreach from Karen and her HOA cronies. But as I read through the letter, I realized the tone was aggressive, almost punitive. They were trying to enforce rules that didn't even apply, rules they assumed I would obey. I smiled quietly. What they didn't know was that I legally owned the entire neighborhood. Every home, every street, every park was under my name. Karen and the HOA had been running the community as if they had power, completely unaware that their actions were meaningless against my ownership. The next day, I drove past the HOA office. Karen and her deputies were outside, discussing my violation. I walked in calmly, carrying the property deeds, survey maps, and legal documents proving ownership of every parcel under the HOA's jurisdiction. I didn't shout, didn't argue. I let the documents speak for themselves. Karen's face turned red the moment she realized the truth. This can't be real," she stammered, clutching her papers as if they would somehow protect her. I leaned in, voice calm but cold. "Everything you've been doing, raising fees, issuing fines, threatening residents, has been completely unauthorized. You have no authority here. Any further attempts to interfere with my property will be considered trespassing and harassment." Her first instinct was to call 911, claiming I was threatening her. I simply smiled and handed the operator a copy of my property deeds and HOA documentation. Within minutes, the operator informed Karen that she was trespassing on property she did not legally control, and any further threats could result in arrest. The neighbors, many of whom had long been intimidated by Karen's overreach, watched in astonishment. Karen had spent years asserting control over their homes, issuing fines, and enforcing rules that were legally meaningless. And now the truth was laid bare. Not content to simply let the HOA know their limits, I implemented protective measures. I installed gates and cameras throughout the neighborhood, clearly marking private property zones. Signage went up on every street. Private property, unauthorized fees, fines, or interference will be prosecuted. Karen, realizing she had been publicly humiliated and legally defeated, tried to salvage her ego by rallying her HOA supporters. But even they could see the reality. Their authority had been nullified. Every attempt to enforce rules or punish residents without my consent would now have real consequences. By the end of the week, the HOA had officially rescinded all fines and acknowledged their lack of authority over my property. Karen, meanwhile, faced potential charges for harassment and misrepresentation of authority. Her schemes, built over years of arrogance, had collapsed spectacularly. The lesson was clear: preparation, documentation, and understanding your legal rights trump arrogance and entitlement every time. Karen had assumed power she didn't possess, and her attempt to raise fees over too many cars had backfired completely. The neighborhood was secure, my ownership reaffirmed, and peace restored. Karen's reign of intimidation had been decisively ended, not with force, but with legal authority, strategic planning, and a clear display of truth. Justice, in its quiet and undeniable form, had prevailed.